Hi, so I am gonna run through some of the key decisions and discussions that happened at yesterday's Board of Supervisors meeting. That was on October 21st. So we started out with a few proclamations. First was a proclamation called Walk and Roll to School. So it's encouraging kids to walk or ride their bikes to school instead of having parents drop them off. The highlight of this, or the thing I want to highlight, is that this was a collaboration of 3 different departments and parts of Pima County, from the Department of Environmental Quality, from the County Superintendent of Schools, and the Public Health Department have all worked together to roll this out. The other proclamation was around National Latinx HIV and AIDS Awareness Day. The board approved this proclamation. The one thing that I just wanted to add around it is the fact that the Trump administration has made more than $1.5 billion with a B dollars in cuts to HIV research and programs that range everything from treatment to prevention. And Latino communities have been left out, right, from and for years in a lot of the programming and treatment related to HIV. So this, I want to thank the District 5 office, Supervisor Cano, for bringing this proclamation forward. We had on the table was our climate action plan for county operations. This is now being referred to as CAPCO, Climate Action Plan for County Operations. The plan has been in the works for, I think, about the last 2 years. It has been led by Director Sarah Davis, and she has done a phenomenal job and bringing together 50 county staff across 25 departments. And folks have really leaned in and developed a pretty comprehensive, far-reaching plan. A couple of the things that I really like about it is there's a framework that based around work that is kind of mitigation, work that is adaptation, and then work that is resilience. And it's both, I think, that framework and then some of the subcategories are all very comprehensive and very robust. The plan itself, just to give you a little snippet of how it's structured, there's a chapter on carbon and energy, one around waste and materials. There is a chapter on extreme heat, wildfire and invasive species, water, landscapes, and climate and community. I did put forward a motion that was approved that we continue the approval of the plan until a forthcoming meeting, and I think we landed on early December, if I remember right. And it's mainly just because we got the plan a week ago, and it was the same week that we had another board meeting, and so I think we wanted some additional time to be able to kind of dig in, continue to talk with some other organizations and leaders, and give folks an opportunity to give us some feedback that we can then also continue to convey to Director Davis and others. I do want to do a quick shout out to the Arizona Youth Climate Coalition and Run on Climate, who were both very helpful in kind of giving us some feedback around their reads of the plan. So more to come on that when it is next on our agenda. We also had a resolution that was reaffirming the county's opposition to the proposed Copper World mine. This is the mine that has been dragging on for years in the Santa Ritas, formerly known as the Rosemont mine. Now it's Copper World, owned by Hud Bay. I didn't get a chance to say this at the meeting, so I will say it now. I cannot watch on streaming services these days without seeing ads from Hud Bay touting copper world as an asset to our community. There's a lot of reliance and talk around sort of American copper. And I again didn't get a chance to say this at the board meeting, but this is such an incredible misnomer. We did a little bit of research, right? There are 3 copper smelters in the United States right now. Hudbay doesn't have any of them. So the copper that gets mined, by and large, in the United States, but would be true for Hudbay, gets shipped overseas to then be smelted outside of the United States. This isn't American copper. We also heard there was a number of folks that came and spoke loud and clear in support of our resolution opposing the mine. John Dougherty, from the executive director from the Save the Scenic Santa Rita's organization, also shared a piece that just shook me about the head of security at Hudbay. He had said has been charged with, found guilty of murder of an environmental activist, an indigenous environmental activist in one of the other places of operations, or where this security head of security has worked previously. It was chilling and incredibly disturbing. But I'm glad to say that we passed the resolution and are continuing as a county to oppose Hudbay. We are trying to encourage the state land department not to sell a 160-acre parcel that Hudbay is trying to acquire that would allow them to expand their tailings and further move the project forward. So again, probably more on that. But we will do everything that we can from the Board of Supervisors and the county to stop this mine. We also had on the agenda something that I am proud of. It was for the International Snow and Desert Alliance, or ISDA, an organization in Ajo that provides a whole slate of services in the community. Services are really comparable to some of the services that, and have been funded by the county around workforce development and different essential services. So what we did was to, instead of having ISDA applying for different grants and spending their time on all of these reports, right? Because they are essentially the only organization in town that provides these services. So instead of having them have to apply for the grants and the reports, instead they're just negotiating a contract every year with Community Workforce Development department within the county, so that ISDA can focus more on spending its time delivering good quality services in the community and less time on sort of bureaucratic procedures and reporting and writing out the reports. So that was approved. We also approved 2 intergovernmental agreements that are related to expanding kind of what we refer to as the middle mile broadband project, right? So this is expanding broadband access and sort of drawing, think of like a big circle around kind of greater Tucson area that would ensure broadband access to places like Arivaca, Sasabe, 3 Points. This intergovernmental agreements were with Oro Valley and Sahuarita, and those ensure that the farther communities out beyond them have access to broadband. This is a key component of the Prosperity Initiative, ensuring that there is digital equity and access for all families within Pima County. So I was proud that we were able to pass that yesterday and continue to see the expansion of access to broadband across the county. We had a presentation from folks from the International Rescue Committee, as well as Lutheran Refugee Services, and then also in call the audience there were folks from Catholic Community Services and others, all sharing about the impacts from the, I even hate to call it this, the big bill that has been passed, and the impacts on refugee communities in particular. Tucson is a refugee resettlement community. We are honored and privileged to be one, and we are a community that has been really welcoming and proud to be welcoming to refugees. But what is going to happen is that come November 1st, refugees who are in a, don't cross from the border, right, but are accepted into this country and are assisted with their resettlement and receive services to help them settle into this country. Everything from language and education and employment and housing, all sorts of services. Come November 1, they will lose their access to SNAP, which is a food assistance program, if they have not completed their and received their legal permanent residency application status. The catch is that legal permanent residency now costs over $1,000 per family member. There was a fee increase on it, so they raised that difficulty bar and then said, well, if you don't make it, then you lose your food benefits. So if you think about a family, and there are families who've resettled here that are families of 4, 5, 6 people, that is over $1,000 per person for the application, not to mention there's filing fees, there's costs for lawyers to help out with it, and there are other costs even tied on to that. It is an incredibly high bar that has now been put in place, and it means then that people are going to lose access to food. So I think we are looking at what we might be able to do to help and fill that gap. And I will say that because of the Trump administration's actions, we are hearing from a lot of communities, from seniors, from the impacts on new moms and infants and children, people on Medicaid, obviously now refugees and others whose basic services are being cut. That people need in order to survive. And so people come then to the county, and we are trying to figure out how we can do that on a budget that has already been stretched thin and already had other sort of demands put on the budget from other levels and layers of government. Then the last thing I'll mention is that we approved a resolution, I think it was, technically. I might be off on technically what it was, but it was related to the Metropolitan Education Commission. And I don't want to get this wrong, so let me make sure here, because our friend Rocky Perez came and spoke on it, and okay, there we go. So we approved a resolution about sort of the evolution of the Metropolitan Education Commission, and it's changing its name into the Southern Arizona Education Council. So this is a collaboration between the City of Tucson, Pima County, and now what's new is that we're also bringing in Santa Cruz County into this collaboration that is supporting access to quality education and higher education for all of our residents, young people. So we're glad to approve that. I should also note, the board meeting was packed. I have not seen this before in my short time on the board, but then nor have heard about it in previous years. We had overflow. All folks who have been, mostly folks who have turned out from the No Data Centers in the Desert Coalition, who are continuing to call on the board to take action to not close on the land sale to Humphreys Peak or Beale for Project Blue for the data center. Folks were there in force. It was impressive. Folks are building their power and building their influence. And so much acknowledgement and kudos to the coalition for continuing to build your base of support and putting pressure on decision makers. Having been on that side of the table for many, many years, it was impressive, and I'm just very thankful for that kind of engagement and showing up at 9 a.m. on a weekday. Folks had to use vacation days, etc., from work, from school, to be there and to keep the pressure on us to try to stop that land sale. So I recommitted to trying to push and turning any other stones over to see what we can do to still stop this data center from happening here in Pima County. So again, thank you to everyone who turned out for the meeting. Much appreciation. And until next time, thank you.